name used in Europe for UTM, no? And we have European regulation that define services that in a scalable way define a stepwise deployment for services to be provided to US operators. So we have foundation services that are mainly putting some requirements on registration and geo-awareness. Then we have initial services that are the first step in providing a collaborative traffic management among US operations. Advanced services that are much more focusing on tactical means to manage traffic, and full services that is looking at a full integration of manned, unmanned environment. So a more futuristic concept to deal with the traffic management of US operation. So based on this framework of reference, D-Flight developed services, of course, available in our systems and solution that we are using in Italy, and of course we configure for the best use elsewhere in the world, if possible. Of course, in a easier way in Europe, where the reference architectural framework is and the regulatory framework is equivalent, and so it's easy to move from Italy in the rest of Europe. But of course, it is quite interesting to define a solution that is easily customizable to the need of other country in the world. As you can see here, the breakdown of services is developed according to the European regulation. So there is the basic regulation, the so-called 945, 947, that is dealing to the definition of what a US is, what is the classification US. In Europe, we have a regulation that is operation-centric, risk-based. So we have a lot of mechanism to define the risk of OIS operation in terms of air risk, ground risk, and there is a classification in open, specific, and certified. Open are the easy one that does not require any authorization from any authority, and it describes operations that are using small drone in very low risk environment. So easy to open a market for recreational usage, and define operations that are also for professional usage, but with a very low risk environment. So far from people or with very small drone. Then we have a specific operation that requires, of course, an evaluation with a mechanism. We have in Europe SORA, that is a specific operation risk assessment developed in Europe by our aviation authority, which give points to the environment defined by the operation, and with the resulting initial value less the mitigation value, you establish how risky is the operation, and based on the risk of the operation you have to use some mitigation means. I try to be short in defining everything. So based on this, you of course defined the operation in visual line of sight or beyond visual line of sight, and you can work in environment where you define some segregation. But the purpose of the regulation 664 is to define some some services to manage the contemporaneity of more than one US operation. So we have 4 mandatory services that are the flight authorization, network identification service, traffic information service, and geo-awareness, and 2 optional services called conformance monitoring and weather information. These are services that are regulated, they need a certification, and they can be used to establish a collaborative traffic management environment. It means that with the geo-awareness and flight authorization, you can establish a strategical deconflicted demand. So you can fly in a safe way before switching on the engine. You establish that there is a geotemporal spacing among all demanding traffic. Then with the network identification services and traffic information service plus conformance service, you have a so-called the tactical monitoring part of the concept. So this gives the possibility to see and be seen by the others in terms of mechanism to collect the position of US and give the traffic picture to all concerned parties in order to behave in a safe way in the airspace. So you see where the others are and you can apply your procedures in order to have a safe operation. When I talk about traffic information service, I'm not only talking about unmanned traffic, but also manned traffic that may be present in very low level for some business. We have in Europe some requirement for eco-spiquity of manned aviation in order to be seen by US operators when flying very low level. So as you can see in the picture, you have also the so-called common information services on the top that are introduced in the Regulation 664 because of a complex ecosystem we have in Europe. So we have the provision of this service can be provided by several providers, and in order to have a consistent set of information, we have to consider the common information to be provided to everyone in order to facilitate the ecosystem, in order to have a single point of truth of the information and the possibility to provide this information to everyone. So let's go in Italy, what's happening. So the flight is already operative platform. We have already more than 180,000 registered users and more than 100,000 active US operators using our system, our platform operative. So the flight, as you can see, is a unique platform. So we developed our solution with microservices. So we can deploy it as a unique solution, providing a single, let me say, UTM system for the overall country, if required. So providing all the mechanism for registration, giving geo-awareness, having mechanism for the authorization, operation to register what kind of authorization is each operator has, and in terms of declaration, as you can see in the slide before, or in other ways. depending, of course, on the regulation itself. Then we have a mechanism for the collaborative traffic management. So the mechanism to collect the unmanned traffic position, provide the traffic information, have a mechanism to plan the operation, and then to apply the strategical deconfliction in this first iteration of the work. And then we have weather, conformance monitoring, and geo-awareness services in order to have as well the possibility to dynamically activate and deactivate volumes. But this can be provided in a unique solution. And with the possibility to be interoperable with external system to enlarge the capability and or interoperate with the fleet management of a dedicated big US operator. No, you can imagine big US operator have their own system to manage it. And then, of course, it's really important to be interoperable with this solution. We have, for sure, the possibility to collect the data from Civil Aviation Authority and air navigation service provider, and we have a strong link with our products like the one EDS AirNav is developing, no, for aeronautical information management. So we can directly transform the aeronautical information of ENAV, that of course is provided by EDS AirNav product, into maps for US operator to be given digitally to the US operator in the language US operator can interpret. You have to imagine that in Italy we don't transform CTR and ATZ one-to-one. Otherwise, you can imagine our city all blocked by airport and airfield we have all over our country. Imagine that in many cities we have city airport. So if you create a no-drone zone to protect the airport, at the end you don't fly everywhere in the city. With the close cooperation of our Civil Aviation Authority, we identified some principles to define some protection volume for UAS around the airport that are considering some shapes that are not the circular shape of a CTR or a TZ, but it is built with some rectangular parallelepiped, I don't know how to say it in English, sorry, with like a cake, upside down cake. No, you have the smaller and from the ground, you have a layer that is bigger at 30 meters and so on. I can show you on some map to give you this as a flavor. But in this way, we have some tool in our platform to take the data from IDS AirNav solutions and transform this aeronautical information into, let me say, maps to be provided to US operator to define the restriction access to the airspace. Then, of course, inside USpace, so I forgot to say you that USpace principles are applied in a well-defined USpace airspace. So you have to designate a volume of airspace where let me say, the principle or the concept implemented is the USpace one. So our regulation, of course, into USpace airspace put some obligation to air navigation service provider, to manned aviation to be conspicuous, and to US operator to consume USpace services. In this regards, of course, considering the architecture, D-Flight, that is the ENAV company for UTM, is designated by our Civil Aviation Authority as the unique centralized system to provide this data. So together with the national system, inside USpace, D-Flight is as well designated to provide such services. So it provides the common set of services that all USpace providers have to consume. Of course, being as well the flight interested to provide USpace services, we have as well the USS system to provide USpace service to the end user. So we have the full set of products, let me say, to play all the role as a unique UTM provider for a country, a common information service provider for a country, or USpace service provider where, of course, USpace is deployed. Then these give in brief maybe an overview of what are the phase from the authority, supervisor, and the pilot perspective of using our platform. Of course, in the first part of the drawing, in the swim lane, you see the several actors. On the column, of course, you see the services enabling the part of the swim lane, giving a more the viewpoint of each of the actor involved. So in the first phase, of course, you have to be registered. You can use our fleet management capability and update your system according to the authorization you have. So there are some mechanisms to upload documentation and provide a declaration. Declaration is a mechanism in Europe that is a simplification that the authority introduced to not authorize everything is in a specific category. So there are some specific operation that if you are complying to the standard scenario, it is enough to go to apply a declaration and not waiting for an authorization of authority. So this, of course, is a simplification, opening the market to some infrastructure monitoring that are typically all the same. No? You are very close to an infrastructure, you don't bother helicopter, you don't bother. So in this kind of scenario, according to a published standard scenario, you can declare the compliance of this scenario, and this is enough for the authority. So you don't need to have any authorization back from them. GeoAwareness, I said, no, there is a map with the possibility to consult where the US GeoZone with some constraints or some principles to be accessed. And then there is the second part that describe a little bit what I said. So you first plan an operation, you check if you are not overlapping with previous planned operation with the principle of currently in Europe we apply the first come first served with priorities. So there are some mechanism of priorities, but in principle first come first served. You have the mechanism of activation of the planning of the flight authorization and the activation when you finish. When you activate, you start providing your position where you are in the airspace. The purpose is not to have deconfliction in air, no? Because everything is resolved at strategic phase. But of course, something can go wrong when you are in air. And so the possibility to have the tracking of who is flying and of course, an exceptional case when an helicopter enters in your volume because of an emergency. Of course, you need other mechanism to tactical monitoring. And then you have the combination of NISTIS services in order to have a clear air situation picture. Of course, we introduced also some solution to dialogue with air traffic service unit. In Italy, we don't want too much drone pilot talking with towers. No, directly. We establish a centralized unit in our navigation service provider that deals with this job. They are the former ARO Met officer, which are less used because of the digitalization in the recent period. So we skilled them to use our platform, the Flight platform, in order to have a digital dialogue with the US operator. And when required, and because they are well trained to dialogue with the tower, only in that case they dialogue with the tower. So we have some operation also very close to the airport, so in airport surrounding, and of course that are marked in red on the map. But if you are authorized, of course you can still have a chance to have a US operation there, especially for not for a recreational purpose, of course, because the ITER is very long and to be authorized. But when authorized, of course, you need to have and establish a dialogue with the air traffic service unit. And we have introduced some very interesting and proven mechanism to dialogue with them. Of course, it is a digital platform. We have other services, but I focused my presentation on the one are focused on the traffic management issue. Of course, we have a mechanism to make the life easier for the US operator, and we have the graphical layers, maps, electromagnetic population density. So we have several layers of information that provides services to US operators, but not for the purpose of traffic management. But of course, this part is in continuous growing up, because of course more client US operator we are serving, more we are in the dialogue with them to understand what are the digital information they require to have to make easier their job. I have here some slide very quick on each capability, but I don't want to enter here now on details as a demo of the platform, but just to give you the flavor of what is already operative used since 2019 in Italy for registration of the drone. So we assign a QR code that is sticked on the drone. So we have an initial mechanism of the digital e-registration, but it is more physical than not electronic, let me say. So you can scan to a QR code, and that, considering the level of the right you have as a supervisor authority, you can consult the database and see what is registered in. No? It is also a service that we provide to our law enforcement to identify. Then, as I said, there is a mechanism to create a declaration and to check the declaration list for the operator. As I said, it is referring to standard scenarios that are published. We have as well, I take this a chance to give you the flavor that in Italy we have a mechanism for paying these. So with the Civil Aviation Authority, we have some fees established. Because we have been designated, we cannot apply our price. Because and for this reason we established some fees in agreement with our Civil Aviation Authority in order to be to have a payback of the effort to put the platform in place. So this give you the flavor that our product already have some mechanism to billing, to have a billing and paying and billing mechanism. Then we have the possibility of the authority to check this declaration in case of audit, because of course the declaration is a good mechanism to go faster in the operation for the US operator, but of course it is not preventing some fake declaration. And so we have to not forget that the authority have always the possibility to audit the US operator and check if everything is correct. And these, of course, are some mechanisms to have a supervisor role of the authority on this. This is what I said before about maps. You see different color coding here. On our map, we have different volumes for different protection area, let me say. So we say the airport, and we have this kind of cake upside down with rectangular. We have closer you are to the runway, and maybe the maximum height is 0. More you go on the side, of course, of the runway, more the constraint is relaxed. So you can fly below 25 meters, below 45, below 60, below 120 meters. So you have a kind of a stair upside down in order to give you the shape of the volumes. And then, of course, we have the protection of jails, military area, and power plants, etc., etc. And these, according to what the regulator established as a Papa, Dangerous, Delta, and Romeo area, PDR. So the protected, restricted, and dangerous area. Of course, there are some mechanisms to transform this into geographical volume to be presented to the WASS operator. And I recall this, that we are having a digital connection with the EDS AirNav product in order to enlarge this. So if an aeronautical information service provider have to provide as well a map for US operator, having a transformation, of course, according to some rules and principles, of course, this can extend the publication in digital format of maps for the country, giving this kind of layer. In Italy, we are the provider for this. So we have the solution, but also the provider. And this is the geo-awareness. I said that with the role of supervisor or authority, of course, we can, as I said, introduce dynamically volumes. So as soon as we put the data into with a person that have the right to do it, of course, the map is updated and everyone is aware. Of course, currently the authority is managed, is publishing in a letter or a mail, a pack to us, and we introduce the map into the map in some cases. Also because there are some ongoing discussion between Civil Aviation Authority and local authorities, because you know that many constraints are generated by the municipality, by the measure of the city or the local enforcement unit. So in this case, we are already ready to provide this account to with a more, let me say, fine-grained delivery, let me say, of these rights, according to some principle where, of course, there is an originator and a validator of the data that in digital format is quicker than the today way of practice. But the platform is already here to be digitally available when the originator of the data is. Not where, of course, the Civil Aviation Authority is today. But of course, this is a typical mechanism when an aeronautical information is generated and validated and published. So we have a mechanism to manage the fleet. It is really important to have a mechanism to know what the drones are. In Europe, we don't have a mandatory requirement for the US registration. We have a mandatory requirement for a US operator registration, not for the drone itself. But we introduced this mechanism because the specific operation is performed with a drone, and so it is easier for the WAAS operator and pilot to register the drone and select from a pop-up menu rather than each time to put some details of the drone later on when the flight authorization is requested. So this is the reason why we have a fleet management capability inside here, and of course with the possibility to be extended and interoperable with the external system. So we have some mechanism to have exchanges if required. If you have a big fleet, of course, make no sense to replicate the information. And another important capability is the possibility to have a more sophisticated fleet management inside our suite. And of course, at the other side, you can check the status of the drone and the status of the QR code Pro. As you can see, also the mechanism of having the QR code Pro is a mechanism to enable the drone to do some specific operation. So flight authorization, I go fast. I don't want to use all the time for the flight authorization is the mechanism to plan the operation. So to insert the data to define the volume. For instance, you can have a circle, a polygon, or a polygon defined by our tools. When I think there is also a small movie here. So you can plan the mission, put all the attributes defining the mission, and the result of this. So when the planning is done, of course, you can start the mission. It is the mechanism that is called activation of the flight authorization. When the mission is started, of course, you are in quotes, the owner of this portion of the airspace. So you have the obligation to remain inside the flight authorization and to free the area when you establish to free the area, because in the planning of the operation, you have a start and end time planned. If you plan another mission and overlaps, of course, there are some messages to refuse the flight authorization request. And of course, you can plan elsewhere or later, of course, when the active flight authorization is finished. So when the flight authorization is activated, then you have a mechanism to see the drone. Of course, you can select the symbol you want and to represent the drone and the manned aviation. We have some configuration capability also for the drawing. I know that Italians are using a lot of colors. It's also on our air traffic controlled working position. We have a lot of colors compared to the other European colleagues. I don't know in Vietnam what is the style, but of course this is something easily configurable according to the specification. And we have the possibility to have, according to the Zoom, some collective numbers of the tracks, especially if you are an authority, maybe you want something more compacted. But if you are an operator, of course, typically the Zoom is very you are very zooming the area where you work, and so it's typically only your track and possibly some surrounding operation. We have as well several mechanisms to obtain the network identification. We use some box that you can hook on the US operation. This, of course, gives the possibility to not change the US itself in this transitory area. Of course, in Europe, we are working in some standardized interfaces between the drones and the machine. In this way, you don't need a legacy box that dialogue with the platform. But we are already have some ICD API to have a machine-to-machine with more sophisticated US solution. We are developing for DJI, and we have already with some manufacturer, US manufacturer in Italy, established some interoperability. So we have already the possibility to integrate, to have a ground control station enabled by the flight. Then we have traffic information. We said conformance monitoring. We have a mechanism to alert in case you miss your obligation to stay inside the volume. So this is not in principle an issue, but it is for sure a risk, no, for surrounding operation. We have to consider that we apply some criteria in the strategical deconfliction in order to not have a very close US operation among the others. So we have some buffer considered among them. But of course, in case of deviation, it is important to alert, especially if you are very close to airport. We have a mechanism to propagate, of course, to the right party this information. I already anticipate paying and billing. We have a mechanism that are for the authentication, no, of who is using our platform. We have in Italy some mechanism called the Public Digital Identification System, SPID, but we have other mechanisms in order to ensure that the right person is using the platform. So in these regards, we imagined we want to highlight as well our capability to dialogue with external platform that gives the possibility to extend the capability of the ecosystem, integrating new platforms, enabling other services, of course. We are now deploying in Italy USpace. We have recently had some activity in San Salvo for Amazon. Amazon selected in Italy in Europe because of the advancement on the EU space and UTM of Italy since so we are the pioneer in Europe in doing it, and we expect to have the first USpace up and running, if not in the coming days, and you will discover from the news at the beginning of next year, because of course we need the certification paper, let me say, from our authority, and we are a very end stage of this process. So we are waiting for the piece of paper and the publication soon. We are having the intention to have the first use case enabled around the Rome, because we have some corridor from Fiumicino Airport to the city of Rome that is quite interesting to activate some traffic of UAS drones. We have the Milan sandbox that is similar because we have at Malpensa Airport a cargo delivery, and also in this case we want to enable some corridor with some urban area from the airport to the urban area, and to enable with USpace. Other two sensitive examples are the Campania sandbox. We have some small islands. Maybe you know Capri, but in addition to Capri, in close to Naples, we have some small islands very close to the land side, and we can establish some post delivery by drones. We have some trials in this day, but we want to enable with USpace as well. Also, really important is to have some USpace on Venice Lagoon. There are small islands. Many delivery are made by boat, and of course, we were imagining that US can improve some services, especially for special goods delivery, like medical. You know that there are ill person that take the same pills periodically, and of course for a situation like the lagoon for old guys may be difficult, and there are some projects to have delivery with drones for these people that live in very small islands, not properly connected. So these are the first deployment of USpace, but USpace, as I said, it is at the beginning as a system, and of course there are a lot of concept behind that are to be considered at the beginning of the story. You know that I already told you that USpace first implementation is based on strategical deconfliction, but of course there are already some projects looking at tactical deconfliction and focusing on demand capacity balancing, giving more power to the US itself to and well supported to have some deconfliction when the drones are already flying. So mechanism to deviate, to change trajectory, or to separate vertically. That today maybe can be some limitation as early starting technologies. Another important pillar of research we are well located because we have a running project for it is to have a more sophisticated dialogue with the air traffic controller. So to have in this way enable more operation very close to air traffic with very close to airports, and so to establish some collaborative so in digital with air traffic controller. Another important pillar of operation is the innovative air mobility. So the drone taxi and a very large, let me say, solution cargo, which require some infrastructure like Vertiport. Vertiport for a strategical deconfliction concept, it's a bottleneck, no? Because everyone wants to go in the same point. So you imagine that we have to advance our concept and solution in order to introduce the Vertiport infrastructure in the loop, the role of the Vertiport manager, and for this, of course, the flight already developed some prototype in validation in Eureka project. We have a demo next year. So also for Vertiport, it's really important to focus on this new infrastructure, ground infrastructure element that becomes a very strategic element of the ecosystem. So in synthesis, we have several platforms. We have a UTM platform, and we can provide service. It is customizable. We have in context USpace, CIS and USSP platform. We have possibility to dialogue with other platform in order to enlarge to vertical solution and enlarge the provision of services. And we are already establishing some enlargement of product and services. We are having, I didn't tell you explicitly, but in case the performance requires more quality, of the service. Of course, we believe that it's important in some places to introduce drone detection systems. In this case, as a service, dFlight provides drone detection service. So it means that integrate this data in the solution. And of course, we already demonstrated and providing services for big events. We already provided such a service for some Imola Grand Prix, no, with the Formula One environment in event in Italy. Of course, we give support to US operator and stakeholder. At beginning to have a kind of proselytism for US operation, because many big stakeholder like the power plant managers, the power lines managers, infrastructure manager in general, are looking at drones, but they didn't manage to understand if it is a good or a bad solution. Of course, our support was more to make some proof of concept of their use cases, enabling them to understand if it is convenient or not for them. Many these stakeholders are already using daily these drones, especially for the maintenance of power lines. They are having a big fleet at the moment for the purpose. But of course, we are following also Poste Italiane and other stakeholders that are willing to use drone. Thank you. So I try to go as quick as possible, but I can be back on all the elements if you want.
I don't know. Thank you, Luigi. I don't know if there are some questions. Of course, the topics are many and also, let's say, complex. But as you can see, we can manage and also assist you since the beginning, but step by step, from the consultancy point of view regarding the regulation till the setup of a system that can manage all the UAS traffic in Vietnam, also to the vertiport consultancy design. I mean, we are, as Luigi was saying, we are the leaders in the Europe in some specific areas. We are the first in some to have tested some advanced functionalities of the U-Space. So please feel to ask any question.
Thank you, Bruce, for your presentation. First of all, I want to ask about how do you solve the conflict of register regarding to the priority of US?
Okay, so the flight authorization mechanism is based on the first come, first served. So when we talk about priority is because there are other events that can override the provided flight authorization. So you imagine that you have a first flight authorization, because you are the first, you are authorized. So you can reject the authorization, or because there is a dynamic geofence created and it underline maybe a military, or in the other line maybe some problem on the ground risk, so maybe a strike on the ground. So if some event happens, maybe a volume of airspace is created and the flight authorization is rejected. If we have other mechanism to manage some priority US operators that of course can fill their operation, and they are dedicated operators. For instance, some police enforcement, so some air ambulance. So there are special users with privilege. So in this case, when they have a flight authorization, these override the previously authorized flight. So, and they have been with the same mechanism of new geozone created, they have to be rejected. But this cannot be Amazon, no, for having a privilege, because it's a private with private, you have equal. If you are a special US operation, so it means that the authority give them the privilege to have a certain priority, it is considered. So we have a mechanism to distinguish US operators according to privilege. But this is given by the authorities, not established by the US operator. So we have no mechanism that if you pay more, you have a privilege to override. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. But what happens if the lower priority operation is happened before, and you have a more urgent emergency case?
We have
How do
a
you
mechanism.
contact with the? How do you contact?
Yes, we have a
to the
mechanism
pilot?
to contact the US operator. We have it happens now as a mechanism for allowing military flights or they are not conspicuous, so they cannot be seen. But in this case, we have a mechanism to close the U-space airspace. We have some dynamic airspace reconfiguration to open and close the U-space airspace. So this mechanism, with if you change the status of the U-space airspace, this is directly informing US operator, and they have the obligation to free the area. So this, of course, there are mechanisms to dialogue with US operator to interrupt the US operation. So there are mechanisms that are the telephone call that you have registered the phone number to call, but we have also digital messages arriving to the US operator. So you can introduce a geofence dynamically, and these are dynamically inform the US operator that they are not anymore allowed and they have to free the area. Or there are a mechanism to close all the airspace, the U-space airspace, so you can decide to switch off, let me say, the airspace, and this event is propagated to all active U-space airspace, removing the flight authorization if you not started yet, or informing, alerting the US operator if you are in flight. The US operator can use a web app or an app and consult it when they are flying. They are also notified by message, and these are the mechanisms we use.
Okay. And regarding dynamic data, you said that the NOTAM is also updated to geo awareness, right? So this update automatically, or you have to fill it manually? And how about the NOTAM and DNOTAM? Do you have the tool to import to UTM system?
Currently, we have a mechanism to acquire the information, the NOTAM, and there is a possibility from a human to introduce the NOTAM itself. We are improving the exchange to have a digital transformation, because NOTAM is written in a way that sometimes have to be interpreted. So it is not easy. So we filter in automatic. So we have just a subset to be processed to transform, because in some cases they are redundant for our visualization. So we for sure focus only in very low level. So only in some cases is applicable for us. So there are some I would say it's semi-automatic today, because in some cases are automatically transformed. In other cases have to be treated manually. Also because of the nature of the NOTAM itself, that currently they are not in 100% clear in some cases, where because sometimes are generic, and we need to be treated manually in some cases.
Yeah. So how about the digital NOTAM? Does your system support digital NOTAM?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
I'm talking about the digital NOTAM. So your system also support digital NOTAM or just text NOTAM in text form?
Okay, so we have a digital exchange with the EDSRNav tool to obtain. So digital NOTAM is more in the product of EDSRNav. So I see that as far as I know, of course, there is a digital NOTAM solution in the EDSRNav product. As I told you, our product is digitally connected with the EDSRNav, and so we exchange data in some format between the tool. And after that, we have to transform in a language in the understanding by US operator. So we don't have NOTAM anymore presented, but we present GeoZone. GeoZone is the language understood by US operator according to our. So they see volumes with some yes, fly or not fly. So it is more basic, but maybe Lorenzo can help on the side of digital.
No, because currently they don't have EDSRNav system providing digital NOTAM. So in this case, probably the question of Mr. Vin is the system capable of getting the digital NOTAM in some standard
for
format.
sure in the standard provided by EDSRNav. So if it is a EDSRNav product, we are native for this, because we received in digital format the NOTAM from the product of EDSRNav. So, but of course we are.
What's the case in case we don't have they don't have the EDSRNav? What happens? That's the question. Maybe.
So if they have not EDSRNav, we have the possibility to have digital NOTAM format as input and process easily.
Okay.
So we have
the system is compatible anyway for any kind of provider providing digital NOTAM.
No problem
that
to connect.
It's a standard format.
Yes.
Mr. Vin, probably this is the question.
Yes. So one moment, please. Let me ask another member of our project team by Microsoft Team. Anh Cương với anh Toàn, anh Kiên có câu hỏi gì không ạ?
Cho anh hỏi tí. Anh hỏi tiếng Việt xong Cương Vinh nói lại anh nha.
Anh hỏi trực tiếp tên Vinh.
Okay, so I have a question about the regulation. As I understanding, the DFly is just a portal for users to, to do everything they want before the flight, and even during flight and then after flight.
Yeah.
But it is just an information portal, or they can approve the permission of flying through the DFly portal?
Yes, the second one. The second one. You have this is not just a monitoring platform. It's a platform through which you can manage, approve, deny, track any single submission request from users. And you can also have a graphical view to follow the fly and see the real-time status of the flight. Please, Luigi, if you...
Yes, of course. I can complement saying that, of course, it is a digital platform that provides services. When you are on the desk, of course, you can go on the website. I was trying to connect to let you see directly it happening. But what I show you in the screen there, of course, is what you have.
No, non è condiviso. Please
sì.
share the...
Sto cercando. Tac.
So one more question about the
Give
checking.
me a second.
We are sharing the screen, so to show you the portal.
Yes. Ok, so this is... Aspetta, questo chiudo. Ok. Okay, now I enter on the flight on the web app. Of course, this can be also an app. You can download on the store from the store of your smartphone, and you can see the same services in more compacted way as on a smartphone can happen. But this is, for instance, what I meant for the map for the geo-awareness. So the user, when entering, have the possibility to have a legenda of the color coding and to understand what are the constraints in the area. As you can see, is in general no constraint here, but here you have the mountain. There is no airport airfield. But if we go closer to an airport that is more isolated, an airport isolated is better. Here, for instance, this one is an airfield, a small airport, no? An airfield. You see there are different color and shades. More far you go from the runway. So this is the runway direction. These are the shapes to protect the runway, no? And as you can see, more you go on a side, and less the constraint is. So in this case, you cannot fly in this rectangular. In this rectangular, maximum height is 25 meters. This is 45 meters, etc. So there are some constraints you can see. Of course, it is happening for the US operation open. So the one have no special authorization. Of course, if you want to fly inside here, you have to request an authorization from the authority. And this, of course, will ask to the Civil Aviation, to INAV, that is the Air Traffic Service Unit providing the service here, for instance, and they will check the impact of the US operation in respect to the operation of the airport itself. And of course, this can end up with some constraints or not, some dialogue to be established with Air Traffic Service Unit or not. And at the end, you can also operate inside these volumes at height above this volume. So it doesn't mean that you cannot always fly inside this volume red, for instance, but you need a special authorization. When you see circles, typically it is an helipad. For instance, here I imagine there is an hospital with an helipad, and you have in a circle way. And this transformation is made from the data we retrieve from the general aeronautical information. So we have in each IRAC cycle an update, and we transform it in this layer, map layers. Here I logged in as a normal user. So as a normal user, I can see the geo-awareness. If I was a WAS operator, of course, I have some menu here to to plan an operation and so on. But just to give you the feeling that it is not a portal itself, but also the possibility to, as you can see, you go here, click here to web app. This is the portal. You have some general description of the company, our numbers, some services. Oh, sorry, this is the version in Italian. So, of course, you have some description and so on. But of course, if you click on web app, you land here where there is the platform itself, and you have the service provided as I said in the presentation. So, with the possible to click to see the layer, etc. Of course, here, if you click on the volume, they give also okay, this is the San Salvo. This is the first use space. This is the place where I say that Amazon is going to use our services for package delivery in Italy, the first area. I hope I replied. Did I?
Yeah, yes. That's excellent. One more question is about I mean, all the information you just show in the portal, as I understanding, is provided by the third party, right? And my question is, we have all from VTM, we have all that information, and we have it in the what is called aeronautical information management system, which we procure from Germany. So is there a way that we could move all that information into the portal so that it's appear, or we have to build it from scratch? I mean,
it depends on the tool you are currently using, how is able to digitally export the data to be easily to import.
Yes,
but anyway, being some data that is volatile, so of course I think we can start from the source if it is possible to so I think nothing is impossible, no? In these regards, in terms of data.
Let me say, Luigi, that the system they are referring to is capable to export the data, the air traffic service data, like navigation, airspaces, everything in a digital format, in an XM format. So absolutely, there is no, apart from some fine tuning that will happen, but once you provide us the geography, the ATS geography in AXM 5.1 format, there is no problem. I mean,
So
the system is capable.
Yes, it's also to be clarified with you if the principles applied in Italy, because of course in each country in Europe, our civil aviation authority are not applying the same principle to transform the aeronautical information in drone aeronautical information, because what is relevant for WAS operator, maybe it's not relevant. So it's different respect to the aeronautical information in general. As we said, we don't publish the airport as in the aeronautical information. No, we have some transformation. Of course, we are very flexible in understanding with you, of course, what are the principle to be applied. If it's a one-to-one, so the CTR at TZ have to be presented, and it will become the same constraint for the US operator like for manned aviation, or as well you are the same opinion of our civil aviation authority to have some discount, let me say, for drones, because drones are not manned aviation, they are small, and maybe if you fly very low in a certain distance from the runway, you don't introduce any risk to the WAS, to the airport itself. So this is the reason why you see the aeronautical information of an airport for manned depicted differently from what we depict for unmanned. Do you see what I mean? So-
Yes, but basically for airspace, you know, it must be the same. The sectorization, the sign and the shape and the height and the above the CTR or TMAs, it should be the same. Restriction also the same, right? There's no difference in manned and unmanned aircraft. And it also depends on the airspace classification. It should be the same.
So if it is the same, it means that there is no transformation required. So it is easier in this respect. If, of course, you establish some criteria to have less constraint for unmanned, if they are, of course, we are also able to adapt our script in terms of transformation. So no, it's not something scaring us.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Kian, do you have any more questions regarding to this article?
No, thanks.
Okay, so the next one is regarding to the transponder, as you said, is UTM box, right? Do you have any standard or regulation for this device? And
so
can
we have a solution already natively dialogue with us. So we have a part of the UTM, we have a box we can rely on. Then, of course, we have established an ICD that allow us to interoperate with other box. Currently, we have not in plan to establish other connection with other box, but as well as so if there are other solutions that are more appealing, we are quite easily able to establish a link with them. So this is currently the policy we have. We have a box that is natively dialogue with us, is part of our solution. But we are not obligatorily, so mandatory to stay with this box only. So we can open with other box, and we are looking at as well. Of course, we are much more promoting the machine-to-machine with the ground control station of drones. So establish some, let me say, we call it some plugin in GCS to be created in order to take all the telemetry we require from the drone in order to retrieve the network remote ID. Do you see what I mean? So to have some software development in the ground control station in order to take advantage of the telemetry of the drone in order to retrieve the identity and localization of the drones. So instead of having a box, we have a software development with the ground control station to exchange this data with them. And to have a kind of let me say, how do you say, a proxy, or it's a kind of Trojan in a certain sense in the drone itself in order to retrieve the data we need. This is closely performed together with the drone manufacturers in general.
So the transponder is provided by manufacturer of drone, right? We still don't have any.
It is developed together because in some cases drone manufacturers have a software development kit, no, that gave us the possibility to integrate our platform with their solution and to have some mixed solution. Do you see what I mean? Encompassing drone GCS plus UTM in a unique, more sophisticated solution. It is applicable for some specific drones. And of course, it requires some, let me say, liaison with the drone manufacturer. Of course, the UTM box is more versatile and gives the possibility to be independent on the drone manufacturer, because you hook on the drone itself and you finish.
Okay. So we have a question regarding to the monitoring of US. So can you give more demonstration on this article?
You mean conformance monitoring?
The monitoring of the US.
Yes.
The real-time
What?
monitoring or what?
That means surveillance.
Surveillance.
Okay, surveillance. Okay. The traffic information service collect all cooperative manned traffic according to the ecospicuity they have. Currently, we have developed, thanks to a coverage of ADS-B, we detect manned aviation with ADS-B antenna. We have in our ground infrastructure. Then we have cooperative unmanned, and we say the technique we use is the UTM box and some interoperability with ground control station. And this is the cooperative world. Then we have the non-cooperative world. And for this, of course, we have some interface with the ground infrastructure that the air navigation service provider put in our possibility for manned. So in case they are aware of some information, they can provide some other data. And for unmanned, of course, we mentioned the drone detection service. So we integrate as well information that are coming from drone detection system in the installed, if any. So in this means we have, of course, in our overall system, the possibility to deploy drone detection systems and to integrate where relevant and when relevant, also the non-cooperative drones identified. So we have a solution based on different techniques, and we are in continuous integration of drone detection of other techniques. We have in our ICD to collect cooperative and non-cooperative tracks. So we have a standard that is aligned with the STM F34 as a format. F3422, so for the exchange of network remote ID. And of course, our ICD allows us to have different sources of data, and this gives us the possibility to attach whatever it is cooperative or not cooperative source of information, and to provide the air traffic picture accordingly. Is it replying the question, or just to check? In this regards, I have the air picture. Of course, there is the monitoring, conformance monitoring check service that is, of course, looking at, let me say, the compliance of the US operation according to what has been planned. So it compares the tracking received of the US and compare with the planned volume of airspace. So if I go outside the volume of airspace, I'm highlighting a non-conformant flight. And so this is a monitoring as well of the air situation.
I can see in your slides already have the screenshot for the conflict of a flight to violate their registering. But can you if you have any more screenshot, it's easier for us to understand your study case. Like to have a screenshot for your monitoring system regarding to this field. Do you have any screenshot, or you can show your demonstration on your live system?
Okay. Of course, we can plan a more live demonstration if now
If you have
it's
some screenshot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Some
screenshot is still
screenshot
okay to
or
us.
some screenshot of the system for the monitoring.
Or you can provide us later, it's no problem.
Yeah, yeah.
This one.
Yeah. Yes.
Real-time
Please
error
go on.
non-conformance with granted flight authorization informed US operator when deviation from it. So this is the volume of operation. This is the tracking of the of what the WAS operation have done. When it goes out volume, of course, this has been highlighted in red. And of course, there are also some alerts in acoustic. We use as well acoustic signal in order to advise the US operator. Of course, this information is provided to everyone, not to the pilot, to the operator, and the authority, and the supervisor. So to advise that something is going wrong for the US operation itself. This is the conformance monitoring, but if you, with the word monitoring, you mean the possibility to have the air situation picture, of course, you will see on the map something like this. That I don't know if it is. So you see on the map some elements that are grouped if you zoom a little bit less. When you zoom more, of course, you can have more events like this. And of course, even more, you have the single flight. For instance, this is a manned flight, and you can see this is generated by, of course, it is not real data because you don't have this operation like this, but this has been generated for creating the mini video we are showing you, no? But of course, you can have manned and manned with the symbol you like, and you have this capability to see everything on the map. But this is the presentation of the traffic information collected by all the source of data. Any?
Okay. I have very little questions only. From what you've shown today, we see that in terms of technology or in terms of tool or software or in terms of data, I think that's everything from you is perfect. However, from outside, we have problem at the beginning. Because for the case of Vietnam, VATM in charge of ATM service provision. But for other activities like drones activities or like unmanned aircraft activities, it's under the control of military. Everything military. So for example, we have a tactical plan or plan for use the airspace for several purposes. However, suddenly the military has activity, and everything must follow the a mechanism and principle that military activity will be the first serve, not like a first come first serve. So we would like to learn from your experiences how you start from beginning and how you connect or you collaborate with the military guys so that you can come to the finals like a portal or the a centralized database to use for everyone, something like that.
I fully understand why in some cases drones are associated to military, no? So everyone knows. But in our case, we started directly with a dialogue between the Civil Aviation Authority and military authority, and we had a strong role of a big company, civil company, willing to use the drone. So it was clear since from the beginning that the drone was a tool used by civil purposes. So, and for these regards, the Civil Aviation Authority has been committed to find a solution. Then the Civil Aviation Authority, considering initially a drone, when we started, I'm talking when we started, initially a drone as a flying object and civil flight object, and then asked INAV to find a solution. INAV, that is our air navigation service provider in Italy, said, I don't want to be bothered by, inside my company, by dealing with this. I create a dedicated company for this, and so created the flight company, and then this started. So we created a company that dealing with the management of the civil UAS, and this, of course, but it was a big role of, let me say, of civil company willing to use the drone, so creating a market for it. So saying, I want to use it instead of the chair to go up and see. So imagine the power line and people climbing on the chair to see if a things is broken, ceramic things on the top is broken or not. They wanted to use the drone to see it instead of climbing, no? And this was very evident in Italy since from the beginning, and the civil usage of these toys at the beginning. So this created, let me say, the wheel, no? Let's move the wheel in this direction. Now, of course, there is a big role of military as well, and they are still there to concentrate, but for other purposes, not for everything. No, we split in two clearly. So there are the military activities with the drones, and this has been managed by military, and civil activity with the Civil Aviation Authority with a civil rule. Of course, you can be more strict on the rule on the civil purpose in order to have maybe a stepwise development of this market, rather than to give everything to the military. Otherwise, it is too complicated, in my opinion. But of course, I'm not so familiar with your experience, but I can give mine. So I think this is the reason why we started, because it was already evident that drones are used so by civil for civil purposes, no, and not so the photograph for the marriage. So it was already something used as a. So we had to make a discipline around, no? This is what I mean. But
Yeah.
I understand that in some country can start from military.
So yes, so that's for this point. I have a question, madam. I mean, as Luigi said, our project started from a clear need from the civil side of the business. Okay, so now, what are your needs? I mean, what are your requirements? Because currently, as I understand, your road traffic is fully controlled by military. Okay, so in this case, what is your need of having a UTM system? So probably this is the first question, and after that we can build the system. Otherwise, if we don't understand your need, your first purpose, the main purpose, that's the most important thing, I think.
Okay. We will share a little bit information so that you can understand the purpose and the reason why we contact you for more information. Because as you said, this is a brand new to us and it is quite complicated as well. And for the case of Vietnam, the ATM is assigned to be controlled by ANSP, I mean the VATM, okay? But for other activities, they are under the control of military. And now, because the space is limited and the civil aviation activity is higher and higher with more traffic, and that's the first reason. So for the ANSP, we have to find a way to increase the traffic activity while still use the airspace in a useful way. That's the first motivation. The second one is that nowadays the activities by military and by UAV or other flight objective is higher and more happen every day. So it more or less affects the current activities or traffic under the control of VATM. For example, for some activities that's conflict with the flight or conflict with the airspace, for example. So we have to find a way to firstly to know what is it and who is it and when it will happen. And secondly, to somehow control that activity. That's not really control like the military actions, but understand about it and keep an eye on that. Thus, in case that activity will conflict with the civil activities and the flight, something like that. That's the reason why we have to find the solution for that. And we have to start with the how to manage it, right? Like for ATM, we have a ATM system, we have others solution, but for the other activity, firstly, out our control. Secondly, maybe affect our flights. And thirdly, there are no clear requirements or no clear responsibility assignment between the military, civil, or UAS operators, so on and so forth. That's the reason why we would like to understand more so that we can have clearer picture where to start, how to start.
Understand.
So I'm pretty sure that it's important that military are full aware of what's happening with drones. No, that's in principle. But if the user is a power line maintenance company in Vietnam using drones, so I think the power line maintenance company in Vietnam is a robust company under the, let me say, responsibility of the government as well. No, so I think it's quite interesting. So the usage of such drone for civil purpose, I think, can be easily convince the military that the responsibility of the access to airspace can be under the umbrella of the civil usage of the airspace, with a clear mechanism to share the data with the military. In this case, they are fully aware of what's happening around the power lines with drones. And so maybe it's can be easily understood that the focus is the optimization of the usage of airspace, as you said, in primary. Security is another important performance indicators that can be accomplished with a digital exchange of information with another system that is really as well important, and we are also working in close cooperation with our military to do this kind of job. And also to introduce also mechanism of camouflage or other activity in order to integrate other traffic that is not, let me say, civil, in quotes, and have, in any case, a complete picture for them in this case. So I think if the needs from the US operators or the final stakeholder of US operation is growing up, and it create a mechanism to be cooperative and visible, no? Establish a regulation that gives this principle as a basis. They enable security, enable safety, and doesn't need to be introduce mechanism from a military side. So I think it's also the lack of regulation that gives more space to military in this regards, because everything is not regulated and everything has to be under the eyes of military in this regards. So maybe introducing a civil regulation create a boundary, no clear boundary to operate and make also the military happier, maybe.
Okay.
So
Anyway,
I don't know if you want
Luigi, maybe
to have more details. I don't know. We
maybe
are already
suggest
15 minutes late in respect to the schedule. I apologize. I talked too much.
Okay. No problem. Actually, it's very helpful. The first purpose of our today meeting is to understand about what you have now. And then from what you have, what you show today, maybe we will look at it in more details, okay? If you can share some like a slide or a screenshot or more detailed information, it will be easier for us to understand first. And then convince internally in VATM about what is going on, what the other country, other ANSP is doing with the UTM activity, something like that. And then maybe the next step will be like convince other guys, not the civil authority guys, but military as well. Show them that the benefits of having such a system can be shared by all the related parties, by the military, civil, and even UAS operators, something like that, to put the necessity, the need for having such a system. It can bring the benefit for all. That's our strategy, one by one. We cannot do everything at the same time, because this is like this study and research from a small group first. Our group assigned by the DG of VATM, however, we also need step by step to understand about how it's going on worldwide. Okay?
Yeah. Madam, let me also add something more in the sense that, and this is a suggestion on how to speed up the operations,
Okay.
and also give you something concrete to work. Being as an ANSP, like a VATM, I think it's very easy also to start a sort of R&D collaboration project between ANSP and ANSP. I mean, we can also approach it in a form of a simple MOU between ANSP. The MOU is something that does not bind you in any case, in any kind of form. It just
Okay.
you know, MOU
Collaboration
means
agreement.
collaboration study. So it's very high level and wide document. But anyway, gives you an idea that you are starting something with some experienced ANSP that has already this kind of system in-house. And then after this MOU, we can also consider to start a testing, an R&D project, where we can also provide you the system in a research, for a research scope, you know? And then little by little, together with your requirements and our experience, we can build the system according to your regulation. Okay, I think that I mean, if you go only for the theoretical part, you will never, in my opinion, it will take many years. If you go in parallel with having a testing system at your premises where we can develop little by little, and we can you can see and you can also show to the military agency the benefits of having this system. This will help a lot, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's something
Okay.
that we can do.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We will take note your like suggestion how to start and the way to start with like a MOU and like a study R&D project first.
Exactly.
So fully understand about everything before we keep approaching for the system, something like that. Okay, we will like report to the higher decision levels of VTM about this, and we'll come back to you later with the Mr. Ving is in the POC. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I think that's for today. We all have a chance to share what we have and what we expect. Okay.
Thank you, madam.
Maybe we will have other chance as well. Okay. So hope that
Thank
we
you.
will
so.
have other meeting. Okay. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
Thank
your
you.
sharing.
Have a nice
Thank
day.
you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Okay.
Thank
You too.
Goodbye.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Chào Phượng nha.